If you've ever driven across the United States, you know exactly what this building looks like. The single-floor roadside motel. It relies on a ubiquitous architectural model that prioritizes cheap drive-up convenience by outfitting every room with exterior doors that open directly into parking lots. Last fall, a commercial refrigeration tech found himself booked into one of these properties. He was traveling alone, assigned to an extended job in an economically abandoned Pennsylvania town, where the streets emptied out shortly after dark. There are no security desks, interior corridors, or gated perimeters at these locations. A single piece of wood and a standard deadbolt are the only structural barriers separating a sleeping guest from the street. That complete lack of physical defense layers creates a frictionless geographical trap, providing opportunistic predators with direct, unobstructed access to isolated targets. During check-in, the front desk clerk offered a specific warning: do not open the door at night. She claimed local drifters like to ask guests for money. Her flat, deadpan delivery signaled this was a rehearsed safety protocol necessary for survival in that specific location. The traveler survived the harrowing 2 days that followed, but the true nature of his ordeal only became clear after he packed up to leave. Shoved deep under his hotel bed, hidden against the far back wall, was a folded piece of stationery. Written in plain handwriting on the back of that paper was his exact room number. Right beneath it was his truck's license plate. The stalkers studied his daily routine, identified his vehicle, and executed a highly methodical, targeted operation long before the first physical encounter. The operation started with Phase 1, surveillance. Walking to his room on the first night, the tech spotted an older, dark green pickup truck idling at the far end of the lot. The headlights were off. The driver sat completely still, establishing an active observation post over the guest rooms. The active probing commenced a few hours later. Heavy footsteps approached the room, stopping dead in front of the tech store. The unseen visitor stood in total silence before walking away, repeating this exact pattern 3 separate times before midnight. At midnight, the pressure escalated physically. A soft, barely audible scraping sound of metal against metal echoed from the exterior door handle. The stalker was quietly manipulating the mechanism to test if the deadbolt was engaged. Stepping up to the peephole, the traveler saw only the top of a dark baseball cap. The attacker deliberately crouched below the sightline to stay out of sight, maintaining a severe asymmetry of information while gathering intelligence. These actions operated as systematic stress tests. The predators actively measured both the physical strength of the room's primary barrier and the internal vigilance of the target inside. At 5:15 in the morning, the tech's truck alarm violently triggered. Reacting immediately, he moved to his window and pulled back the curtain to check on his property. A tall man in a dark jacket stood by the half-open truck door. The man did not run or panic. He turned his head calmly, looking directly at the specific motel window where the curtain had just moved. Here we see a top-down diagram mapping the tactical logic of this event. The stalker deliberately tripped the vehicle alarm to watch which room would illuminate and respond, mapping the target's vehicle to his exact sleeping location without ever setting foot inside the building. Securing that specific intelligence immediately shifted the operation's parameters. The attackers abandoned general area surveillance to focus entirely on a localized, confirmed target. Skilled predators routinely manipulate human nature. By initiating a threat to physical property, they force a target's instinctual protective reactions to override their personal security protocols. On the second night, the idling truck resumed its post, and the stealth tactics evaporated. Around 11 p.m., the heavy footsteps returned, stopping deliberately right outside the bedroom window. A fingernail began dragging slowly, inch by inch, down the exterior glass pane. This act of psychological warfare is explicitly designed to paralyze a victim by forcing them to confront their total physical isolation. Through the thin walls, the sound of a tool mechanically picking a lock echoed into the tech's room, followed immediately by the door of the empty adjacent unit opening. This diagram highlights the proximity of the threat. From inside the empty room, the attackers delivered one single hard knock on the shared wall directly behind the victim's headboard, testing the structural integrity of the drywall itself. Suddenly, the small, frosted window in the bathroom began to slide open. The tech ran in and shoved the glass closed with everything he had, instantly meeting the violent physical pushback of the predator on the outside. The stalkers dynamically adapted their strategy. Realizing the front door was too secure, they bypassed it entirely to mount a flanking attack through an adjoining structural vulnerability. The tech won the 10-second struggle at the window, jammed a desk chair under his front door handle, and dialed 911. The siege finally broke when police headlights swept across the motel curtains. The immediate sound of multiple sets of footsteps running hard across the asphalt into the darkness confirmed the threat came from a highly coordinated group. Officers securing the perimeter documented the physical evidence. The bedroom window screen had been entirely removed, and the door to the adjacent empty room was covered in fresh pry marks. This flowchart illustrates a dangerous cognitive flaw known as normalcy bias. When faced with a highly abnormal, threatening situation, the human brain consistently underestimates the likelihood of disaster, preferring to route incoming data into a loop of rationalization rather than taking immediate defensive action. The target's mind was the most dangerous vulnerability, attempting to categorize an escalating threat as routine noise. We see how this played out. He dismissed the clerk's warning, ignored the idling truck, and assumed a midnight stalker was a lost guest. Social politeness and forced logic are defensive liabilities when dealing with methodical, patient predators who operate in the margins of everyday life. Human intuition evolved to process subtle, threatening anomalies in the environment long before the rational brain can gather enough data to categorize them. Surviving an isolated environment requires trusting that primal sense of wrongness. The moment a situation triggers it, you have to abandon the comfort of rationalization, grab your keys, and evacuate.